Back to the channel. This is the Action Figure Grader, and today we're going to take a look at some recent closing prices for comic books on ComicLink. They had their February winter featured auction, and let me tell you, there were some incredible books. I didn't even include the really big books. There were some amazing Fantasy 15s, which is the first appearance of Spider-Man. Those ranged in grades, and they sold for between $27,000 and $270,000. It was unbelievable. So I only really included in this batch what I was actually tracking or what I bid on, but there were mega grails, mega grails that were in this auction. And I got some funny anecdotes as it relates to these books. I bid on a number of them, and I lost almost every single one of them. And one thing to keep in mind, at least as it related to post-COVID, is that comic books are kind of a precursor, in my opinion, for what the vintage Star Wars action figure collectible market's going to do. Because after COVID, comic books went really up and then went really down before the action figure market started to decline. And what I'm seeing now, at least for big books in the CGC-graded kind of key issue comics, is that prices have bounced. They have bounced dramatically. I lost a number of auctions where I bid incredible high bids relative to what the fair market value is on Go Collect, and I still lost. So to me, I think this is a sign that the worst is over for much of the comic book market. Obviously, it's not for every book, right? But to me, I think prices are on the way up. And part of it's the stock market's at new highs. Part of it is Bitcoin is at new highs. I think a lot of people that buy alternate assets like this, like high-grade comic books or high-grade action figures, they probably have Bitcoin. And they feel rich right now. I don't collect Bitcoin, I don't buy Bitcoin, but, I know a lot of guys that do, and they're making money hand over fist because the market is really high right now for stocks, which I am invested in, but not Bitcoin. So I think that there's a little bit of that going on. And whether that holds up, who knows? But I do think that the comic book market is a precursor for what all the stuff behind me might do moving forward the rest of the year. So let's take a look. The first one is an ASM #1, the second appearance of Spider-Man. This was only a 3.5. I didn't bid on this one, but I wanted to at least include one of these. There were several of them, even higher grades, that sold for astounding prices, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000. This was only a 3.5 with cream to off-white pages. That one sold for $88.50. So even a 3.5 for ASM #1, you're talking almost $9,000. It's a very big book, obviously, very sought after, and it's going to be very expensive. I already told you some of the closing prices for AF-15, which is his first appearance. This is a funny story. This is one of the many anecdotes I'm going to kind of relay as we go through this one. This is Amazing Spider-Man #11 in a 9.2 with white pages, the second appearance of Dr. Octopus. This is a book I really want to get. Now, when this 9.2 was shown in the previews for this book, I sent it to a buddy of mine named Jason. He's a Patreon supporter, very generous member of the collecting community who has given me some amazing stuff over the years, and we're good friends. And I said, hey, I'm going to aim for this book. I think it's going to sell for between $6,000 and $7,000. And he said, no, John, you're an idiot. I'd be willing to pay up to $15,000 for this book. And I was like, no way. No way this book hits $15,000. It's a very low census book, though. In terms of higher grades. There's not even a 9.8 that exists for this book. So this one was a 9.2, and right up until the end of the auction, it was going for between $6,000 and $7,000. I said it was going to go for between $6,000 and $7,000. My target was $6,500. It did blow past that one, but I still said, hey, Jason, hey, this thing's going to end for between $6,000 and $7,000, just like I predicted, and I was kind of rubbing it in his face. Well, lo and behold, it sold for $19,790. So this is further proof that I don't know what I'm doing, especially when it comes to these really big books. And Jason was dead on the money. It sold for a lot of money. He said it would sell for over $15,000, and he was right. So that just shows you that you gotta stick to what you know, or surround yourself with people that know more than you do. And that's why Jason, not why, but one of the reasons why Jason and I became friends is because he's got a lot more comic book knowledge than I do. His collection's incredible. it's better than mine will ever be. And, you know, I depend on him for giving me price advice for a lot of these big Silver Age books that he knows way more about than I do. So he was right. Congratulations, Jason. Thank you for not rubbing it in my face after this thing closed. Here's an ASM 238 in a direct edition. This is one I do have in my collection. The first appearance of Hobgoblin. There was a direct and a newsstand that sold. This direct sold for $1,200. That's low. That's actually low. So I didn't look at this one closely to see if there's any issues with this one. I know it had some Newton rings right on Hobgoblin. So maybe that played a part. I don't know. But the newsstand edition sold for $2,200. The direct edition, $1,200. Last month, it was $1,600 and $2,300, if memory serves. So those books are down. So those are two that are down. And it does seem like Copper Age and Bronze Age keys, some of them, not all of them, are definitely still flat to down. Whereas Silver Age books and some other really big books in high grade where there's a low census count are up, and they're bouncing up. But that was one that surprised me a little bit, that it's still down that much relative to some of the other Copper Age and Bronze Age books we're going to look at. But I was really surprised that one only sold at $1,200. Good buy on that one. This is one that I was targeting or was thinking about. This was a newsstand edition of ASM 361, signed by Bob Sharon, Randy Emmerling, and Mark Bagley. And, you know, I would be curious in the comments below. Leave a comment while you're leaving a like for this video. Do you collect signature series books like this where you got writing all over the book and kind of detracts a little bit maybe from the art style? This is the first appearance of Carnage, the harder to find newsstand. I want to get a newsstand for my collection, but I decided that I would rather just have a straight newsstand without any signatures instead of having these signatures all over it. And it still sold for $676, which is actually not a bad deal given that a newsstand without any signatures goes for about $550 to $575. So I thought this was a pretty good deal. I was tempted, but I was so fed up on losing all these other books that I'm going to show you a little bit later on that I gave up, and I just said, you know what, I'm going to be happy. I did win one. So it's first world problems for AFG. Okay. I still won a really big book that I'm very, very happy with the price on. So don't cry me a river, okay? I did really well for the one book I did get, but I had several others that I really was saving up for the last 3 months that I targeted, and I bid really high, and I still lost, and I was very bummed about it. But that's the way it goes, you know. That's the way it goes. You got to take your lumps and move on. So by the time this one rolled around, I had already closed out my order and said, go ahead and ship it to me. I'm done. I don't even want to bid anymore. But this one actually sold for less than what I expected. I was expecting $750 on it. It sold for $676. Here was the other one I lost. ASM 300 in a direct edition, 9.8 white pages. This was a pretty perfect copy, pretty perfect cut all the way down on the right-hand side where the 300s were fairly well aligned. The pages didn't have any rough kind of jagged edges, which most of them do when I look at them closely on the CGC website. Perfect colors, nice deep dark red color, no scuffing or anything like that, freshly graded. So I bid really high on it, and I finished second. Last month, one just like this in great condition. I bid $3,100. It sold for $3,200. On this one, I bid $3,250 and it sold for $3,350. So I lost again and it went higher. So this is another one that has bounced. It has bounced up, and I've seen them sell for, I saw on eBay one sell for $3,800. So, and that one closed before this one. So if I had been smart, I probably would have bid higher, but I didn't want to bid, you know, really my target price is about $3,000. And it seems like I've lost that window. For about a month and a half, 2 months, these were going for between $2,600 and $3,000. They have bounced off that low, and they have now gone up about 10% or higher. In some cases, 20%, which is the one on eBay. That was very nice. The one on eBay was perfectly cut, too. Sold for $3,800 plus taxes, which would have been over $4,000. So we're talking about going from $2,600 to on eBay after taxes $4,000. That's a big jump in a course of like 2 months or less. So I think I've missed, unfortunately, my window for the bottom of ASM 300. Maybe we have a recession and it comes back down, but you know, I'll get one eventually. I'm not particularly worried about it. They come up every single month now on ComicLink and on Heritage and eBay. So they're out there. There's plenty of them out there. But I'm very picky about the copy I want to get. I want to have it with perfect cut and perfect, alignment and things like that. So I'm very picky, and I've turned down a number of them that have sold or have been offered for sale for less. But this one I did lose. I finished second place. So that one was a stinger. That one I didn't mind too much because they're so plentiful out there. But some of the other ones I'm going to show you later on, man, I'm still smarting from that one. I still got a red spot on my butt because I got spanked by some other bidders. Next up is an Ultimate Fallout 4 first print, first Miles Morales. This one also has bounced. This one sold for $1,400. These were going for $1,100 to $1,200 last month. Even a couple weeks ago, this one sold for $1,401. So, again, I might have missed the bottom on Miles Morales, but this is another book that has got like 4,000 copies in a 9.8. So I'm not particularly worried about it. I'll find one when I find one. But this is another one that's still on my target list for this year that I've not managed to lock down yet. It's only March, John. It's only March. I'm acting like it's the end of the world on some of this stuff. It's not. I'm not particularly upset. There are two that I'm going to show you where I am upset, okay? Not upset, but disappointed that I lost them. But this one I'm not worried about. This one I'll get it when I get it. But it has bounced. It absolutely has bounced. And it's a modern book with 4,000 plus copies, I think, if memory serves, on the census. So surprising, but, this is another example, another data point I'm trying to show you where I think the comic book market is strengthened, okay? It's come off the bottoms of where we were. Here's one where I am very, very disappointed I lost, okay? This is a Twin Cities pedigree of Detective Comics 373, a 9.4 with white pages. This is the second appearance of Mr. Freeze, and the first time that he was actually the villain, Mr. Freeze, has ever been called Mr. Freeze. Batman 121 is his first appearance. In that book, he was called Mr. Zero. In this book, it's the first time he's called Mr. Freeze, and it's a great cover, and this is a very low census count book. But no one seems to care about it because it's his second appearance. This is the 8th. There's only 8 copies, I think, graded higher than this one, and it was a pedigree. So the fair market value, according to Go Collect, was about $1,000. So with 3 seconds left in the auction, it was at $750. I bid $1,500. I bid $1,500. I went 50% above the estimated fair market value. 3, 2, 1, and I was winning at $1,050 as time expired. And I was like, boom, I won it for fair market value, $1,050. I can live with that. Now remember, I bid $1,500. Lo and behold, about 3 seconds later, somebody outbid me, and the final bid was $1,600. So I lost. I lost on this book. I went $1,500, which is 50% above fair market value. Somebody else out-nuclear bid me, and they bid 60% or higher above fair market value, and they won it at $1,600. So I was really disappointed because I really wanted this book. This is a book I've been targeting for about 4 or 5 months, and when I saw it pop up in this winter featured auction, I was like, I'm going to go hard on this one. I don't care if I overbid on it. I have to have it. And I still lost. So that's the way it goes. My only solace is that I made somebody bid 60% over fair market value on this book. It was a pedigree. It's a beautiful copy, white pages as well. So somebody got a great book, but I made them pay for it. And I would have been happy paying $1,500 for it. I should have bid higher, I guess, but I would think going 50% over fair market value would win you the book, but I did not. I lost that book. Next up, I didn't buy this one. I didn't bid on this one except early on, but this is Detective Comics 400, the origin and first appearance of Man-Bat in a 9.2. That one sold for $1,900. Now, you remember, I believe there was a 9.4 that sold back in October for $2,800. So this is another book that's on the way up. It's really jumped a little bit. There was a 9.2 off-white to white that sold for $1,300 or less, $1,300 on Instagram. So this one sold for $1,900. So that's a big jump off of the off-white to white page version that I saw sell on Instagram for $1,300. So another example. Here's another example of a book that has really bounced. So this is Captain America number 109, The Origin of Captain America Retold. First Silver Age Captain America origin story. in a 9.8 white pages. Now, I've got two data points for you. There was one that sold last October for $1,900 or $2,000, somewhere in that ballpark. There was another one on eBay that sold in this exact same grade for $2,200. This one sold for $3,000. $3,000. So that is a massive jump even over this book that sold on eBay for $2,200, not even a month and a half ago. So $2,200 to $3,000 in less than a month and a half for the exact same book, exact same grade. So another data point showing you that the market has moved up. Here's another one I bid on hard and I lost. This is Detective Comics 405, the first appearance of the League of Assassins. And, you know, I had plenty of data points on this book. This is a great Neil Adams cover that I wanted to add to my Neil Adams cover run. I've got Batman 251, Batman 227, and Batman 232, all really big books that have Neil Adams covers. And I've got the first appearance of, you know, Ra's al Ghul, and I thought this would be another great first appearance book to get in very high grade, very low census at the high grade. I bid 32 and change, and the final bid was $33.89. I finished third on this one. So the FMV on Go Collect was about $2,800. I bid $3,100. So I went above FMV because it was a white pager, and I still lost. So another data point showing you that the market has definitely bounced. Here's a Batman 227 in an 8.5 off-white to white pages. I've got a 7.0 white pages. So I was tempted on this one, but I let it go. That one sold for right where I expected to. I was thinking $2,000. It sold for $1,921. So that's a good fair market value, not high, not low. This book is going to always hold its value. Just a great cover. I've got a 7.0. Very happy with it. I hope to upgrade mine to about an 8.5 at some point later this year. Next up is a Batman 251 signed by Neil Adams. And I was targeting this book pretty heavy, but it blew past my number. There's a lot of data points for this one on the census because it's not too hard to find this one in a 9.6. But even the signature series, Go Collect was putting the value at around $5,000. It sold for $5,056. So it blew past my number, and I didn't bother bidding on it because it blew past the number. But again, this is probably 15% above Go Collect's fair market value based on other signature series 9.6s signed by Neil Adams. So the market has definitely bounced there. Here's a 9.8 for Batman 244. I would like to get this book, but not in a 9.8 because it's so expensive. This one was a 9.8. This is kind of another Ra's al Ghul cover. I thought it'd be a nice pairing with my Batman 232, which is his first appearance book. I've got that one in a 9.2. But I'd like to get this one probably in about a 9.4, maybe a 9.6 at most. And on this auction, they had a 9.8 as well as a 9.6. The 9.8 sold for $33.09, and the 9.6 sold for $1,900. Both of those numbers are well up versus past sales. So I just kind of let them go. Batman Harley Quinn. This is another easy one to find, but this is another one I want to get sometime this year. This is the origin and first appearance of Harley Quinn in DC continuity. I've got Batman Adventures 12, which is her first appearance, as well as Mad Love, which is her first appearance her first origin outside of DC continuity. So this is another one I like to get. This one's down. 405 was the final winning bid on this one. This one had some kind of condition issues, though. It kind of had some rough edges to it, so I stayed away on this one. I'm looking for one that's in a little bit better shape. It seemed to me to not be worthy of the 9.8 grade after I looked at the close-ups on the CGC website. So you really got to zoom in on the CGC website photos because at first blush, this one looked really clean, but it was freshly graded. I looked at it close. I was like, nah, that's not a 9.8, at least not in my mind. So that's why it sold so cheap, because other people did the exact same thing. Usually this goes for about $500 to $550. Star Wars books, we've got a Clone Wars #1, first appearance of Ahsoka. That one sold for $1,200. That one also has bounced. $1,100, maybe even $1,000. I've seen under $1,000 even for this book. So this one has definitely bounced off the lows of $900 to $1,000. Usually closer to $1,100 is about market. But $1,200 is a good solid price, not too much of an overpay or anything like that. The Clone Wars #1 Special Edition. This is a very sought-after book, And again, her first appearance, but they only printed 1,000 copies of this. I was targeting this book if it stayed around $3,000. It sold for $34.51. And, you know, $3,000 is kind of a pie-in-the-sky dream price right now. If it gets under $3,000, I might go after it. But $3,300 is really the number to aim for. It did sell for $34.51. Darth Vader #3, the variant edition, the first appearance of Dr. Aphra. One just sold on eBay for like $975. This one sold for $800. So good value on that one. But you know, you just never know the range on this book. But this one seems to be coming down a little bit. Anywhere from $800 on the low end. That's the lowest price I've seen, $800, but usually closer to $900, $950 is the going rate for the variant edition Salvador Larroca cover of Darth Vader #3. I've got the newsstand edition for Heir to the Empire #1, First Grand Admiral Thrawn. Great newsstand edition there. That one sold for $937, almost exactly what I paid for mine. I paid $948 for mine just about a month and a half ago. So that was you know, again, fair market value. Good to see for me. I breathed a sigh of relief there that, you know, I didn't, you know, overpay for mine when I bought mine in an auction on eBay. So $948, $937, good price target to aim for if you're looking for the newsstand edition of Heir to the Empire #1, the first appearance of Grand Admiral Thrawn. I've got some Incredible Hulk keys. I did not bid on this one. I did bid on the next one. A 9.4 Incredible Hulk 180. This one had the custom label. And I didn't want this one in a custom label because I wanted it to say first cameo of Wolverine on the front. If you know, when you have a custom label like that, they put it on the back, as you can see right there. First appearance of Wolverine in cameo on the last page. 9.4 white pages, that sold for $30.55. That's about fair market value. I thought if I was going to bid on it, it would be about $3,000. I did bid on the 9.6. I went hard and I finished second. This is the first appearance of Wolverine in cameo. 9.6 white pages. So I went really big on this book. I did not win it. I bid $60.50. It finished at $61.50. So I lost this one. And that's okay. You know, that's about fair market value. This book is kind of flat. It's not really jumping or anything like that. But, you know, again, I only have so much money and, I did go after it, but I ended up getting a different book instead, after I lost this one. So I couldn't have won both of them. So very happy that I got the book I did, but this is one I would have been really happy to have in my collection in a 9.6. I'm happy with a 9.4 or a 9.6, a 9.0, whatever. It's a big book. It's just great to have in any grade in your collection. So one day I'll get one, hopefully, but it wasn't meant to be in this auction, but that's a great book. Here is a 9.0 for the very next book in the same line. That is Incredible Hulk 181, the first full appearance of Wolverine. Obviously, the better book versus 180. At least the market thinks so. You get Wolverine on the cover. I can't afford a 9.4 or 9.6, at least right now. But a 9.0 is kind of in the ballpark. But by this time, I had already spent my money for this auction. This one sold for $72.89, and my target price was $7,200. So I was pretty close on that. I feel good. I feel good knowing that my price targets for Hulk 180 and Hulk 181 in those various grades were right on the money with where I was expecting them to end. And they seem to kind of always come up. It's a very easy book to find in these kind of grades, you know, 9.0 to 9.4, 9.6. So eventually one will happen if I get the money together. But great book. And this one had white pages, freshly graded. It was a pretty awesome copy. Really nicely centered as well, but it just wasn't meant to be. Some other books, I've got some Wolverine keys and then some X-Men keys to wrap things up. I've got a Wolverine 1 direct edition signed by both John Romita and Chris Claremont. I figured if I'm going to get this one in a direct edition, it'd be kind of cool to get it signature series since it's a little bit more rare. This one did sell for $430, which I thought was a good value given that a direct edition unsigned goes for kind of $280 to $325 right now. So I thought that was a good buy there. This was a newsstand edition of Wolverine 155. I thought this one would be a nice book to pair with what this is an homage to, which is Hulk 340. We got the claws reflecting Hulk's image, and in this one you got Deadpool's sword reflecting Wolverine's image. So this was a harder to find newsstand as well. This book is from 2000, so hard to find this one in a newsstand edition. Now, one of these did sell in the last ComicLink auction for like $2.90. This one sold for $3.39. So even though it's a modern book, because the new Deadpool 3 trailer just came out, you can expect every Deadpool or Wolverine key to jump up in price right now. So I'm kind of trying to stay away from anything Deadpool or Wolverine related right now. But that was a nice book, $3.39, and that is up about 10% versus the last sale. Wolverine Limited Series number 1 in a newsstand, 9.8. This is one I want to get, but this one had, if you looked at the close-ups of it, it had some really ugly color rub or printer error on the Wolverine logo. So I stayed away from it, but it did not stop the bidding. It actually is up again. And again, because of the Deadpool 3 trailer, I'm staying away from Wolverine books, and this is a good example why. Wolverine Limited Series number 1 in a newsstand, 9.8, had been going for about $1,100. This one sold for $1,307. So probably a good time to stay away from Wolverine and Deadpool keys, as I already mentioned. Likewise, here's a X-Men 133 newsstand. This one also had a really bad color rub on the X-Men logo. You can see it right there. It's a very bad stripe, you know, color ink error or something. It looked like dirt to me, so I stayed away from it. But newsstand edition, that one sold for $10.21, which is not a bad price, but I think because that color rub was so pronounced on the yellow X-Men logo that this one sold for a little bit less than what I was expecting. I think if it's a perfect copy without any kind of issues like that, I bet it goes higher. I bet it goes $1,200 to $1,300 pretty easily, if not higher. And I'd be willing to pay that, quite honestly, but because this one had some ugly color rub on that X-Men logo, I stayed away from it. Finally, I have an X-Men 141. This book is also up right now. This is the direct edition and the Days of Future Past storyline. Another book I'm targeting for this year. I was hoping it would stay around $700 to $750. It sold for $850, so it went a little higher than I was willing to go. It was a nice clean copy, though, with nice centering and everything, but the price just went a little too high for me, given how many of them there are on the census. Pretty easy to find this one in a direct edition. We'd love to find a newsstand, but you're talking $1,000 to $1,100 right now. One on Instagram just sold for $10.99. So if you're looking for a 9.8 newsstand for X-Men 141, that's a price target to aim for, $10.99, which is what it just sold for on Instagram. So lots of price data across different grades, different eras, Silver Age, Bronze Age, Copper Age. I hope you enjoyed this look. Please leave a like, and I'll be back soon.